video, we'll go inside and we'll show you everything that's in there that make it comfortable for us to travel all over the country. Welcome back. You've seen the outside if you watched the first video, and now let's go inside and take a look and see what the inside looks like. Let's start with storage. The first cabinet we have opens up, and what we keep in here is the Coleman stove. So when we set up, it's ready to go, along with a tablecloth, a couple of gas bottles, and a few other things. Up here is an addition I made last year. It's a cabinet that we keep for storing dry goods. When you open it, it's got a child latch, and it swings open and stays there. Cereals, you know, any dry goods, cans and so forth. It holds quite a bit, and it kind of locks down so that when we're traveling, this thing doesn't flop open and everything falls out. Down here we have two drawers, one for myself and one for my wife. They're quite deep and they go in quite a ways, about halfway into the bed, so they hold quite a bit of stuff. We keep the clothes that we use most of the time in here, and the rest of the clothes we have another storage area, which I'll talk about later. These cabinets up here aren't used that much. This is the place to hide the switch and some of the electrical, but we do have a rack that holds our dishes. And when we come to talk about, you know, how we eat and how we manage things, I'll talk about these dishes a little bit more because it's really minimalistic in the way that we use them. It's also the shelf for the microwave. The kitchen area has a large drawer that's cut to fit this, and it also has a latch to hold it from opening when you're driving, because this thing can really slam out. And there are a couple of cabinets under here, and under here is where most of the dishes and the battery is stored, and anything else that'll fit in bins that we put in here. You'll notice that we're not camping now. We're in between, so that we don't have a lot of the stuff loaded into the cabinets that we normally do. As far as sleeping is concerned, if you remember in the last video I said the couple of things you really want to do when you get a camper two main things is get out of the rain and get into a good bed. Well, we're out of the rain, and this is a good bed. It's a one of those thermopedic mattresses, the foam ones. It's 8 inches thick. This is a platform bed, so there's plywood underneath. It takes a regular set of queen size sheets, because this is queen size minus about 4 inches, because I had to cut it off to get it to fit across here. The quilt was made by my niece, and we've had this forever, ever since our teardrop camper way back, and it's been a part of the camper ever since. We get plenty of air through this window when we have it open, and it's really nice. It's almost like sleeping outside with this thing open, as long as it's a nice night and it's not too cold. Food preparation. Now that's a topic all in itself. This is our food preparation area. We have our cutting board there. Very simple, and our philosophy is quite simple. We bring a small fry pan, a large fry pan, and a saucepan. I have large kettles, and I have cast iron fry pans that have been seasoned. We gave up on those long ago. When we travel, we try to eat simply so that the cleanup is also easy. We try not to use anything with sticky sauces or messy sauces, so that we would opt for, baked beans from a can, or macaroni and some kind of seasoning boiled in water, as opposed to, say, macaroni and cheese. Everything else is fairly easy to wash out and clean up. Macaroni and cheese, you have to work at, particularly if you're let it dry. So things like that, things with sauces, we try not to do. We barbecue things, we cook things in the microwave. We have sandwiches, things that clean up very, very quickly. We would rather eat that way and not have a big mess of dishes afterwards than not. And the fry pans we have are fairly new fry pans where the stuff just pretty much slides out of it. That can make your camping a lot easier, particularly if you're staying out for weeks or a month or two and you're doing this day in and day out. When we're eating, we try to keep dish cleaning to a minimum. And as a result, we bring very few dishes. My wife and I each have a Corningware plate. We each have a bowl, and we each have a knife, fork, and spoon. We do carry some extra silverware in the drawer, but we try to keep that to a minimum, and we clean things out after each use and put things away. We do carry some paper plates in case we're just going to have a sandwich and some chips or something like that. And that's just throwaway, so that it saves the cleaning altogether. So what do you do about water? We have a really different solution. We don't have water in the camper. It saves me having to winterize it. It saves me having to store it and carry it and get it and pump it and whatever. We used to have a large 5-gallon blue container that we used to get water, but we found out that it was overkill for us. And when the spigot broke on it, halfway through a trip, what we did was we stopped and picked up a cranberry juice drink, drank it, and we found out that we had this really hard bottle with a wide opening. And this is a gallon. And with a gallon like this, we can just about get through our day. There's enough to wash, your plates, maybe a fry pan or two. There's enough to drink, and to wash your hands and so forth. Sometimes I have to get two, but it's usually just a walk to the road where the spigot is. Super simplified our water situation. Super simplified it. And for the cost of a bottle of cranberry juice. We have the microwave, which when we're able to plug into shore power, works good for heating up some things and make things a lot quicker. And sometimes when you stop late at night, you just don't feel like cooking and it's dark out, the microwave kicks in and it does a good job and allows you to get out of it easy. Now, what about other kinds of cooking? Let me show you a couple of things. Outside, we've got a table, and here's the Coleman stove. And I used to have a much larger stove, and I used to have a large propane bottle. But we found out that really wasn't necessary. If you have a large propane bottle, you've got to carry it. One of these things will go you a week, depending on how much cooking you do. Much easier. 2 or 3 or 4 pack of these will go you a long way. And we like to cook outside. We can make a sandwich inside if we feel like it. When we cook, we want to do it outside. And when you have a small camper, putting an entire kitchen in with stoves and all kinds of stuff like that just takes up a lot of room. And like I said, out of the rain, in a bed, but still kind of camping. And again, with a regular gas bottle, a charbroiled grill, not very big, stores in the back of the truck, and we barbecue when we want to. So what do we do with a lot of the rest of our stuff, like warm weather clothes, extra blankets, clothes that we might think we might need, but we're not going to wear on a regular basis. We may not need it all, but we should bring them. Well, if you have a truck like this, you have a back seat. And my wife gets one clothes basket on that side. The clothes basket goes here for me. And we pack those clothes baskets with everything that we think we might need. And probably almost never use it. Extra shoes and a few other things go down here on the floor. It's not used for anything else, so it becomes storage space for clothes, blankets, things like that. Now, what about power? We have kind of a unique solution to our power requirements that works really well for us and is not complicated. Let me show you. You may have noticed in the other video that we have 2 plugs here. One of the plugs powers the 110 volt stuff. The charger, the microwave, and a set of sockets on the wall that's 110. The other is for the heater, and we used to have an air conditioner, but we don't bother with that anymore. Now the reason I have 2 is I only have 110, because even though most places have it, you don't always find the higher amperage plugs anywhere in campgrounds. So I have 2 25-foot number 12 wire electrical cords. I plug one in when we don't need heat, and it runs the whole camper. If we do need heat, I plug the other one in, and that runs an electric heater. And if 25 feet isn't long enough and we want power in the camper, I can plug them together and I end up with 50 feet of cord. And I can run it to any socket or any post in a campground that may be kind of far away, which has happened a couple of times. It works out for us. Our electrical requirements are fed into these 2 15-amp circuit breakers. One of them powers the microwave and this plug and the battery charger. The other one powers a 1,000-watt, 110-volt electric baseboard heater, which is overkill for this camper. There's an old Singer thermostat here which controls the heater, and of course we have a couple of plugs here for other things. Also up in the cupboard over here is a set of fuses, a battery switch, and another plug in case we need to plug something else up there. And I used to have the charger up here, so that's why that plug is up there. Underneath the cabinet is a Victron charger, and we are waiting for our new set of lithium batteries, all ready to be connected down here as soon as we get them. They're about 2 weeks away. Let's talk about those for a second. The new batteries we're getting are replacing an old AGM battery. We had a 100 amp battery. It was getting sort of end of life. It's about 4 years old. We use it a lot, and decided to replace it. And I also have a boat, an electric boat that I needed a battery pack for that also had batteries that needed replacing. So I got online and did some research and found a company called Big Battery at bigbattery.com. And they had some really nice self-contained battery packs. We opted for a 202 amp 12 volt lithium battery pack. It's all self-contained, and it's going to be actually more than double what we had. We had 100 amps before, but that's really 50 usable amps. Out of 200 amps with lithium, we should be able to get 175 amps out of it before it needs charging. So it's really more than triple the amount of power we had, and we seem to do pretty good with what we had then. The battery charger down there is new. It's for lithium ion batteries. And one good thing about it is that if you don't have a battery connected to it, or if your battery is charging, the battery charger will act as a power supply and provide up to 15 amps of power for your camper if it's plugged in. So the lights are on right now, and anything else that's a DC, I'd be able to run the TV or whatever, could be run off the charger if the batteries were low or if they were being charged. I've got a little information about the big battery that we're going to be getting. Take a look. Just takes a second. Our electrical sort of philosophy for camping is we need light, we like to run the TV, and we like to charge our devices. I have a laptop, we've got phones, we have Apple Watches. So that's all really 12 volt. The whole camper really runs on 12 volts. When we can plug in, we have a microwave and a plug against the wall and a heater, and that's it. If we need heat, which we rarely do, because in a small camper like this, it really doesn't get that cold. Body heat almost heats things up. But if we need heat, I do have a little Mr. Buddy heater that's a little propane bottle plugs into, and I can periodically turn it on and keep us warm. The camper is insulated. If you saw in the last video, there's 1 inch of the dense foam insulation, and it's not in the floor, it's in the ceiling and the walls, it's not on the floor for a couple of reasons. One, that heater right there is overkill. 1,000 watts will heat half a house if you leave it on. So we really don't need it, and we, you know, we're not going to Alaska. You know, we run into some cool days, we get some really cool mornings when we wake up sometime, so that you know, the heater isn't needed that much. And we're from Maine, so you know, anything over 35 degrees is balmy. Just kidding. We like to be warm, and we are in here. So what do we do for entertainment? Well, we have a 12 volt Nexa television. It's a few years old now, but it still works good. It was generally considered a trucker's TV, hence being 12 volts, and it's pretty rugged. It does a lot of bouncing around back here, and it seems to keep working. But I will download some videos once in a while, even though this is an older TV, but not a smart TV. If you look right back there, that little blue box, that'll hold a USB thumb drive. It'll hold an SD card. And you can load dozens of TV shows and movies on there, and they'll play through the television with that device. Also have connections at the top for the sound, the antenna, and of course for power, the black thing at the bottom. And these TVs generally have poor sound, so we have a small set of speakers down here that serves a variety of purposes. This little shark right here is a radio. It is Bluetooth. It has a plug-in for something like the television. and it sounds pretty darn good for the size. And it has a lithium battery in it that charges right here in these ports. So while we keep it plugged in and we want to take it out on the picnic table, we can do that. So let's take a look at a few other things about the camper that don't fit in the ordinary category of the things we just talked about. We have 2 light switches, one for LED lights that are in here and one for the outside LED light. This is a max fan controller for the fan, which is up here on the ceiling. It's really quite nice. You push a button, the fan opens up, the cowling opens up on the top, and it starts up, and you can set any percentage of air that you want, 10 to 100%, and you can have it blow in or out. And you can also set it on a timer. Let's swing it way around to this map. This is a map that is laminated in plastic, and it's of the United States. We have traveled to every one of the continental states. We haven't done Alaska. It's on the bucket list, but I'm afraid we may kick the bucket before we end up doing it. We haven't done Hawaii because we'd have to put an awful lot of air in the tires to get there. But we have done all of the states, some more than others, and we've actually seen a lot of things in all the states. And if you can see, there's a lot of dots. And those dots are some of the major places that we've stopped in the country. And there are actually a lot more. We have an update to do. We have various little decorative things that get changed out every once in a while that have of interest to us. Here's a little something. For those of you who like to get souvenirs of all the places you've been, souvenirs are very expensive. Some things that are still too much, but still not that much compared to other things, are refrigerator magnets. And I found this galvanized map, and we just buy refrigerator magnets for a couple of dollars for every place we've been. Every gift shop has them, and it's a little memento of our travels. Point Betsy in Michigan. And we pick up a few things of artisans at different places. The arch. We have no batteries in this now. It gives us the time. It gives the temperature inside and out. Wake up in the morning, you want to know if you're going to be stepping out into freezing weather or not. Paper towel roller. It's on a ratchet, so that when you're traveling, you don't come back and the whole roll of paper towels is on the floor from having rolled off. So it has a little bit of a break to it. It stops it from unrolling on you. We have a coat rack, so this you hang your clothes at night after you before you get in bed, or keep a coat on here or something. It comes in handy. I have a trash can that is actually screwed to the floor. Otherwise, it would be someplace else after our travels. I have Kong up here, which is nothing more than an old 29-inch baseball bat that we had as a kid. I painted it and put it up here. Never had to use it. I never will, and I certainly do not want to bring a baseball bat to a knife or a gunfight. So I'm a lover, not a fighter. So hopefully that'll never be used. But I just have it there more as decoration than anything else. Over the bed, we have a roll-down shade that you can kind of see out of, but it's really hard to see in. There's a crank over here in the corner, and from the corner you can just crank it. It goes down, and you can crank it back up. We have 2 tables. This one comes off and kind of opens up, and we bring it outside by the campfire, or sometimes we even put it inside here. And then there's this one, which is against the wall, and if I lift it, it comes up and snaps, and there's 2 little clips underneath. You snap them, and it folds down, and it's quite sturdy. These braces underneath are rated at 100 pounds each, so I wouldn't want to sit on it, but I'm never expecting having to have anything put on it that will fall off or collapse it at all. Now I'm bringing you down into my garage because the cooler happens to be here. Now we could get a Yeti cooler for a lot of money, or we could have a cheap plastic cooler which hardly works. But let me show you this one, and then show you why we like this. I made this cooler. It's very light. It's made with 1/4 inch plywood and very little else in it. And the inside, you can see the milk jugs in there, is 2-inch foam insulation in the bottom, the sides, and the cover. Now, what is it about this that makes it something that we want to use? Well, that cooler that I made, we keep in the back of the truck, and we've had stuff in it that when we have 4 milk jugs, 1 in each corner, that have been frozen in the freezer before we leave, we'd have stuff in it last 10 days. And we brought home ice in the jugs after that. We don't need a cooler much. As a matter of fact, we almost never bring one. We use that cooler when we go someplace where we're going to be stationary, like the Bluegrass Festival that I talked about. We camp there up to 6 days, and we don't move. So we're able to bring our food with us and bring meat and so forth, and it keeps everything nice and cold. It's not a problem. But when we travel, we move a lot. We move a lot. We travel for 2 weeks, 2 months at a time sometime. And we bring things that don't need a cooler. And you can do that quite easily if you're willing to make a couple of concessions. Now, a couple of concessions that really aren't concessions for us, but might be for a lot of people, is things that need to be cooled that adults would have to have maybe are things like spreads like butter and creamer for coffee. We get the creamer, the liquid creamer in the little packets. It's usually fine on the shelf in the store because they don't need to be in the refrigerator. And as far as butter is concerned, we gave up butter 40 years ago, and we do have a spray butter, which is basically flavored soybean oil. Not everybody likes it, I understand. But beyond that, we don't need a cooler. So what do you do if you want like a steak or chicken or something like that? Well, when we travel, it seems like every 20 miles, we either pass a grocery store or, more importantly, a Walmart. So that when you're getting ready to stop for the evening, you've called ahead for a campground, there's a place for it, you look on your phone and you see, gee, there's a Walmart on the way, or 2 miles off the beaten path. So you stop, you pick up supper. Typical thing for us, we would pick up, a piece of meat, a couple of chicken breasts maybe, cucumber, tomato, something to cook, whatever. And we bring it with us, have it for supper, and it doesn't need to be cooled after that. And you can do that every single day if you want to, if you're a type of camper that is traveling, moving from one day or once every other day to the next. In between, when you're not traveling for a day, or you're stationary for some period of time, that's where the cupboard comes in. You've got box stuff, you've got canned stuff. You can easily live off that and make good meals. So that's our philosophy of camping.